What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from hashtag Be the Change. Truth will set you free. Blunt force discussion. This is an episode of Blunt Force Discussion that I'm having to stream because I've put it up a bunch of times. It got taken down before, so I had to be clear about my verbiage. Say what I want to be clear. The medical information. There is no medical information that we advise in this. I don't know why it had issues when it was up before, but this is an episode with Clay Clark. Last week, I again didn't get to air it correctly. Nobody really saw it. Super weird. So it's a 30-minute episode. I want you guys to enjoy it. I'm gonna maybe at points do like quick cuts in if there's anything questionable, but I have to be very clear to anybody checking this on artificial intelligence that hey, it's whoops. I this is just for the purposes of having a conversation. I'm not recommending anybody do anything with their health or anything, or do I believe in the Great Reset? Even though it makes a lot of sense. But regardless, I just went to Clay Clark's ReAwaken event, talked about it on Truth Will Set You Free earlier this evening. A phenomenal event. There was some stuff that was a little weird and zany for me, and whatever it was, got to meet Clay. I think even Clay goes, some of it might be a little too whatever. But anyways, I have this on all of the channels. I put C. Clark instead of his full name. Maybe it's the ReAwaken tour that does it. But even then, it's clearly not getting the typical, but whatever. Hopefully this will actually get a little bit of traction and we'll get to enjoy this episode. So I'm going to throw this up there and we're going to get the party started. So there we are. This is the episode with Clay. If you have any questions, I'll be watching in the chat box. So let's give it a go. What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from hashtag Be the Change. Truth will set you free. And here we are with an episode of Blunt Force Discussion. We've got a very special guest on this episode. We only have so much time with him, so I want to make sure we get the party started right away. He's kind of a legend in his own right, especially in the event world, especially for truth seekers. I'm not even going to say conservatives because that's not what it's all about anymore. Clay Clark is on this episode, and it's time to get Blunt Force Discussion started. Let's go. Clay Clark, what is going on?
Brother, I really appreciate you carving out time here for me today, and hopefully we can drop some knowledge bombs that your listeners previously did not know.
Let's absolutely. And this is Blood Force Discussion. I have some questions for you.
Oh yeah,
just
I'm ready.
And I'm gonna start it out with first an introduction. Obviously, one of the founders of the ReAwaken America tour, Thrive Time. You've been an entrepreneur of the year, kind of a big deal, and you've grown immensely in the last several years in your political journey. Tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and why you got involved in this reawakening of America.
Well, I'm not sure what state you're broadcasting from, but I'm in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're close. We're very close.
We're neighbors.
Yeah.
And I had grown up in a country where, thanks to the sacrifices of men and women who had served, I enjoyed all these freedoms. And in our country, in capitalism, you can be as poor as you want or as wealthy as you want. And I grew up in a home where we didn't have money, but we had freedom. And so I was able to start a business out of my parents' basement. I grew that company. And before I sold it to the company djconnection.com, we were doing, if people can imagine this, we were doing 4,000 events a year, weddings, corporate events. I mean, we're talking the sound systems, the speakers, the lights, the logistics, the vans, all that kind of stuff. And I sold that when I was wasn't yet 30. I think I was 27 years old, 26 years old. And people started reaching out to me because when you MC big corporate events or weddings, you start talking to people. Now, over time, they start to say, what do you do? How does your team do 4,000 events? How many of these events do you do a year yourself? How do you organize these? Where do you keep all your equipment? Or those kind of things. And one by one, people started reaching out to me and asking me if I could help mentor them and teach them how to build a multi-million-dollar company. And I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was it wasn't certainly my goal. And so I told somebody, I said, I'll take you on as a client. I'll work with you one-on-one. And I just want a small percentage of the growth. Well, now the pandemic, flash forward, I have 160 clients, and all my clients who I'm helping them grow their company. And they're asking me, hey, how am I going to keep my business open if I'm forced to be closed? And I said, well, let me research and I'll call you back. Give me 24 hours. And so I went down to my man cave and I did what I call a deep dive. And for the Clark House, what that means is you can't reach me. No one can text me. No one can call me. Don't come into the man cave. I'll let you know. But let me go down. So I go down to my man cave, and I came back looking like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And I came back, and I said to my wife, I said, Vanessa, are you aware that the models that said that 2.2 million people would die from COVID, those models are false? They're funded by Bill Gates. The polymerase chain reaction tests, the PCR tests they're using. This is all pre-lockdown, by the way. The PCR tests are falsely calibrated to inflate the number of cases. I know so because the inventor of the test, Carrie Mullis, had said so. 3, the system and method for testing for COVID was patented in 2015, which that means there was a plan. And there's this thing called the Rockefeller Plan, which prophesied all of this. And I started finding a Grimes song called We Appreciate Power, where she was prophesying COVID-19 before COVID-19. And so I was like, this is a plan. And so in my great naivety, Anthony, I've met a lot of local officials throughout my career, because when you win a business awards, somehow the politicians come up to thank you and to shake your hand. Oh, thank you for giving back for the community. And I was always unimpressed with Democrats and Republican governors, mayors that I've met, congressmen. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and share with them the truth. So I and a small delegation of doctors and business people went and shared with people what was going on, the governors, the senators, the congressmen, the mayors. And I could only get one mayor, the mayor of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, to keep Broken Arrow, Oklahoma open. And so I told my partner, Dr. Robert Zellner, I said, hey, if they do a lockdown in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we've already shared the facts. I'm going to sue the mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm going to turn my building into a church. That's what I'm going to do, because I know the woke pastors in Tulsa will definitely capitulate. And if they do it, that's what I'm going to do. And Dr. Zellner said, I'm with you. And so there's a small group of us, and I would say maybe 10 or less. That's what we did. And that turned into weekly town halls. And then that turned into the first Reopen America event we did in Tulsa at Rainbow Bible College.
So it was essentially built out of the fact that you were a business coach, essentially, or a man, and I know you were several businesses you were working on, and this was built out of necessity because we saw the country being shut down for a completely false narrative based on probably the biggest exchange of money in the history of the United States of America, forcing small businesses closed. So that's essentially what melded the reopening and ReAwaken tour, essentially.
You're correct. And a couple other things, and I don't want people to think that I'm saying something I'm not saying, so I'll just be very clear. I am not a person, I'm a libertarian, so I don't do well with the Republican establishment or the Democrat establishment. I don't do well with groupthink. I don't do well with, most people say, I don't do well with celebrities. I've met a lot of them, and most of them are impossibly dumb. I don't do well with the mainstream media, because I've met a lot of people who are my age who have ascended to the highest levels of the mainstream media. They have no idea what's going on. They just read teleprompters. I'm not somebody who respects most pastors, because I've met them, and many of them have been my clients, because I know that a lot of pastors spend more time preparing their eyebrows and their haircuts than they do reading the gospel. And so I have never been in awe and or impressed or inspired by titles and degrees. I look for people with critical thinking. Yeah. And so I think, Anthony, this is something your listeners appreciate, is critical thinking. You certainly do. And I think we were told, trust the experts. And I've always found, as a business consultant, and for anybody out there who's looking for a business tip, don't trust the experts. Trust the people that actually have done what you want to do. What am I saying? If you're looking for a personal trainer to help you get in great physical shape, find somebody who's in great physical shape, they live it, they do it, they are in great shape. That's the trainer you want. You don't want an overweight personal trainer. And what I find is a lot of times we have these medical experts. I mean, look at the Biden administration's selection for the head of our transportation and the head of our medical systems and the head of our financial systems. These are all experts with no practical skill sets to speak of. So I would just say, if you're out there today, we need to get to a place of critical thinking. And the Bible says, and the gospel and the idea of Christianity is that Jesus Christ is the light. He's the light, he's the truth, and the way. That the Bible is the light, the truth, and the way. And the light is like the light in the world of darkness. The truth, it's like the ultimate truth is there, and the way. And I just think a lot of people, we've strayed away so far from our Christian foundations that we let the spirit of fear overtake us and shake us and get us to give away our God-given freedoms.
Got to make sure we talk about our sponsors on this episode of Blunt Force Discussion. First off, thedrartistshow.com. You can see it on the bottom if you're watching BFD at checkout for 10% off. A lot of different products to help you either not get sick, deal with the coof, all the different things. So make sure you go to thedrartistshow.com, BFD at checkout for 10% off. That gives us a little bit of credit as well. If you're interested in going to the Great American Summit or learning more about it, go to greatamericansummit.com. Tickets are 10% off with the discount code GAS23. One of our original guests, Tony Van Schoik, go to tony.mymonate.com if you'd like any of the hair care products. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Things have been looking good since day one, since I've been using Monate products. And also, if you'd like to set up a business and make it a side business, obviously network marketing is huge right now. So go ahead and go to tony.mymonate.com for more info. Last but not least, guys, if you want to support this show, please go to patreon.com/blunt force discussion. We're essentially doing this by scrapping all the different things together. We could use your help. Also gives a little bit more access directly to me. And last but not least, I'm rocking, what do I got on right now? I got the They Both Suck shirt, making fun of both parties because they do both suck. You can go to awakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. We do have some new stuff coming up soon. You'll see it. So just check that out for us. Thanks, guys. That's our sponsors. Let's get back to the show. I'm going to throw a curveball because, you know, you brought up your faith, and I know you do. A lot of it is about faith and freedom. And like you, by the way, the more time goes by, the more libertarian I become. I just realized I turned the mic off. What I was trying to say is the new Pure Blood hats are in. Truth will set you free. New shirt. We also have these. Also at awakenotwokestore.com, the new Pure Blood stuff. I feel like this is the right crowd for it. Thank you, Danny, for letting me know there was no sound. Where is it in the light? There it is. Black on black, white on black as well. And as for Stephanie, I'm jealous. There's no way I could have afforded to stay at Trump Doral for an extra 3 days. I actually stayed at Bobby Sauce's house. I got it out there on a $220 ticket that I booked 8 days before. I got super lucky, super blessed just to be out there. Everybody, tell me where you're watching from. Let's get back officially now to the show. There's sound now. My bad. I was raised a Democrat, became more of a Republican conservative, and now I get so frustrated with both sides. But you're bringing up Christianity, and I know there's a lot of infighting with today's influencers, and it drives me absolutely crazy. What are your philosophies? There's a lot of, and again, this is probably a question you've not been asked.
Sure.
There's a lot of gay influencers. And there's a lot of ultra conservative influencers that are slamming the conservative gay influencers. From a biblical standpoint, how do you feel about that?
Well, okay, so let's just get into it. I'm not dodging it. I'm just trying to give multiple examples. So okay. I have a very, very good friend of mine who loves to smoke a lot of pot. I mean, just wow. And so it's to the point where like we had to have a conversation. I'm a 42-year-old father. And I said, hey, if you come to my house, don't come high.
Yeah.
You know, and okay, bro, I don't understand why you're so like judgmental, bro. What did you just say? And I'm like, see, that's what I'm saying. You're so high. You're asking me again. I know, bro. And we kind of coast on the 20-year relationship that we developed. And so I have a little bit more compassion for him, but I don't want that to influence my kids. That being said, if he were to get up and say, I'm part of like legalize it for who's the candidate? Oh yeah, Trump. Yeah. So if that was what he was doing, I would say that is a celebrating a sin.
Okay.
Another example, very good client of mine I've had for years, good guy, and I feel bad for him, but he was a client for a long time. But every time he'd have big success, he'd go gamble, like just bet it all on a thing, lose it all. You know, you've probably seen that cycle of contractors.
My dad was a gambler. Absolutely.
Okay. And so anyway, these are not sins I want to celebrate. So that being said, with the love of Christ, as I understand the gospel, is the only way through heaven is through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. That's how I believe the Bible to read. And so God gives you his laws, not my laws, and asks you to adhere to those laws. And if you read the book of Romans, if you're out there today and you're having these questions, I would encourage you to read the book of Romans or listen to the audio book of it from beginning to end and see what the gospel has to say about it. So I would view homosexuality, gambling, alcoholism, rage, or I would view these things as sin. Lying is
Absolutely.
a sin, stealing. But I don't think that. So I don't want to celebrate that. I don't want to say, look, we have thieves for Trump. Woo! Yes, thieves for Trump. We have perpetual liars for Trump. Perpetual. We have gamblers, compulsive gamblers for Trump. Woo! That's not how I look at it. I look at it as we all fall short of the grace of God, and we need to use the gospel, the Bible, as our true north compass. And some of us are walking a little bit east, a little bit west. We're trying to go north. And so that doesn't make the compass not real if some of us are drifting. But every day, and there's a podcast called Lion of Judah on YouTube that I enjoy listening to, and another one called Watchmen on the Wall 88. So these are like big time shows. I mean, maybe somebody thinks they're big time. I don't know. But Lion of Judah on YouTube and Watchmen on the Wall 88. I happen to think they're great. But every time I listen to them, I think to myself, I'm a horrible person.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Every time I go, this is horrible. Who does he think he is calling me out like that? I mean, I don't know these people. They've never talked to me about this whole show's about me. He's judging me. I mean, honestly, this is the thoughts I have sometimes, because if you read the Bible, it should convict you.
Yeah.
And so it should convict us to want to do a better job. And right now in my own personal life, what I've had to learn on this ReAwaken America tour thing is, why am I doing it? Like people ask me on shows, well, why are you doing the ReAwaken America tour with Eric Trump and General Flynn? I have to ask myself that because, at first it was, to share the truth. And then like the lawsuit came, and then the subpoenas come. And then it's like, I have spent, full transparency, I just passed $373,000 of legal fees just on one particular legal situation right now.
And you don't make any money on your events. You
I lose money. Yeah. It's awesome. So, by the way, how I lose money, it's my genius strategy. As I felt my wife and I both were in agreement. I told her, I said, I feel like God wants me to do a ReAwaken America event with General Flynn, but there's no burning bush. I didn't hear an audible voice. I just feel it strongly. And my wife goes, why? And I go, I just think we're supposed to, this is all like right in the peak of the lockdown. I said, we're supposed to do it. And she said, well, what are you going to charge for a ticket? And I said, we're supposed to let people name their price. And she said, what? Because she does math. And I said, I feel like it's kind of like manna, how we're supposed to trust God to provide. And
Feel the dream style.
Yeah, and if someone's listening, Anthony, and they grew up poor like I did, and they get to name their price, maybe they say, we can do $50 a piece, but as a family, we're going to have to sacrifice just to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. And if somebody else is like $500, I want to sit up close and be a VIP. Fine. So that's kind of how we do it. And so far, I found a way to lose a lot of money. The Rolling Stone did an article saying Clay Clark has bitten off more than he can chew. So as I discovered that I'm going to lose money over and over, the theory of that doesn't feel good, but that was what I was supposed to do. Then the hit pieces come in, and I'm like, well, and I wasn't doing it for public praise, but I'm not getting public praise, and I wasn't doing it for money, and I'm certainly not making money. Why am I doing it? And so
you're being called a grifter by the left, of course. That's their favorite thing.
Right. So now I think it's PBS is going to be riding with me to one of the events as an embedded reporter. I've had the Rolling Stone do this too. I don't mind if they come to the events, they ride with us in the white van, they see my kids, they ask me questions. But really what God's been working on me is it is bigger than saving the nation, it's salvation. And so I'm trying to lead people to Christ. And the only number that I check, Anthony, at the ReAwaken tour we're doing in Doral here in May, is I always ask, how many people got baptized tonight? Because that's really all I focus on. So, and Anthony, we've had people reach out to us and say, I'm not being disparaging of people that are Asian. I have people in my life who are Asian, but this Asian group calls me and they say, Mr. Clark, we want to sponsor ReAwaken tour. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's cool. I don't get a lot of people that, sound like English is their second language offering to sponsor. I said, so what are you guys looking to do? We pay $1 million. And I'm like, $1 million? Okay, what do you guys want? We want to help choose speaker lineup. And I'm like, you want to choose the speaker lineup? Yes. And they tell me the speakers they want to bring in, and they're all like way fake. Then another big organization reached out. I'm not going to mention their name, but I'll tell you that the names they represent are huge within the conservative space. And for accountability, I did the Zoom call with a pastor. So a pastor was on the call. I said, hey, this guy here, he's a pastor, the pastor of the church I go to. And he's on the call with us on the Zoom so he can hear what I'm saying to you. And they offered an insane amount of money, and they wanted to push the vaccines. So I have to ask myself every day, why am I doing this? And really, it's trying to lead people to Christ, including myself.
That's awesome. So full transparency, Clay, I have obviously heard about you for a long time. Your team reached out, and I had just within a week before that, people have been telling me to pay attention to you. And just like me, I'm a middle grounder that, of course, gets painted into this far right picture. And I always thought, based on General Flynn and based on what had been covered, and for a rarity, I actually paid attention to the media and actually avoided the ReAwaken tour. I had friends telling me I had to go, all these different things. Once your team reached out, and right around that time anyways, it was like I was being led to follow you. And I started doing, like you do, a deep dive. And I was fascinated at how much all of your messaging, all the people that you have, the anti-vaccine movement, everything that you do, it's not far right. It's literally middle ground. So it's interesting that you get painted into this Q picture, this alt-right picture, Christian nationalist picture. Why is it, do you think, that they've attacked you to a point where somebody like me, who is a truth seeker, managed to avoid you for far too long?
Well, I got a poster back here. Let me grab my poster. One second. Let me show my poster.
I can.
Okay. Got the poster. Here we go. So this is my poster. And if I'd explain the Great Reset quickly, this is what it is. Okay. So step one, Klaus Schwab was the founder of the World Economic Forum. He started the World Economic Forum in 1971 per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. This is Klaus Schwab. And he started the World Economic Forum per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger in 1971. In 1971, America got off the gold standard per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. And in 1971, America began outsourcing our jobs to China per the recommendation of Henry Kissinger. This is a long-form plan here called the Great Reset. It's not a new thing. And so to launch the Great Reset, step one, they had to use fear to fundamentally destroy the economy and to convince every human to put RNA-modifying nanotechnology in their body. And people say, what? And if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, you can see the patents for how they use mRNA modifying nanotechnology to connect your body to 5G. And if you don't believe me, just go to Google and type in MIT CBDC.
Stuff they got mad about, by the way.
Just type in MIT CBDC in Google, you'll see it. Then type in MIT quantum dot. MIT has developed what it's called the quantum dot. And the quantum dot is a technology that stores your medical and financial records under your skin. What? And the name of the new CBD technology, the new technology being used for the CBDCs is called Quant.network. Quant.network. So they had to use fear, the models that said that 2.2 million people would die from COVID, the polymerase chain reaction tests, and any possible way to convince you to put the RNA modifying nanotechnology in your body. Step two, they have to use 5G and mRNA modifying nanotechnology and biosensors included in the vaccines known as surveillance under the skin to make it impossible for you to buy or sell without putting the technology under your skin. And three, they have to use legislation to create a biomedical research agency that would merge national security and health security in a way that would use physical and mental health warning signs to prevent outbreaks of a disease and violence before it occurs. That's why if you look up HR 666 and HR 6666, that's what it's all about. And this is so, but the solution, if you wanted to stop all this, you'd ban the use of RNA modifying nanotechnology in shots. You'd ban the use of the PCR tests that are falsely calibrated. So again, if you want to stop it, you ban the use of the falsely calibrated PCR tests because they're falsely calibrated. They create false positives. Two, you ban the use of mRNA modifying nanotechnology. And three, you got to make ivermectin, budesonide, and hydroxychloroquine available over the counter.
But that's
and then four,
talk over that.
we got to frame this as a thing that it's Klaus Schwab's Great Reset versus freedom. And people just have to understand that. So if you're listening right now and you're a Democrat or a Libertarian or a conservative or a Republican or whatever, it really is Klaus Schwab's Great Reset versus freedom. And once we understand that idea, then there's stooges on both sides that are put there. I call them controlled opposition, but like Dan Crenshaw, World Economic Forum, the governor of Texas, World Economic Forum. You see a lot of these people that are members of the World Economic Forum, but masquerade as conservatives. And so that's why they came after me so hard, because I clearly don't have an allegiance blindly to the Republican.
So I have to say that little part is the only bit that I could consider that might have been the reason why I'm having so much trouble having this episode go up. So that's why I put the disclaimer in the beginning, disclaimer in this last part. This is just Clay's opinion on the issues with the Great Reset and how to combat it. And that's it. And that is literally the disclaimer based on all the rules and regulations that I've read since. That should be fine. Back to the show.
Good party. So I'm clear. I'm one of the few people that I know early on that was saying we shouldn't trust anybody connected to the World Economic Forum, including the governor of Texas. And I'm saying these things to the Attorney General of Texas. I'm saying these things to the governor of South Dakota. I'm saying these things to the governor of Oklahoma. I'm saying these things. And people are like, well, but I thought he's a Republican. And people just have blinders. And so General Flynn's the same way. I mean, General Flynn right now, if you look at his Twitter feed, he has been celebrating the courageous presidential run of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., while also openly celebrating the fact that he will be voting for President Trump. People are like, what? Is he double-minded? No, he loves the facts and the truth that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is putting out there. And he also is going to be voting for President Donald J. Trump. And I'll tell you, one of the funniest stories is we were at the ReAwaken America tour in Anaheim, and somebody close to Bobby said, is General Flynn here? I go, yeah. And they go, I don't know. And again, this isn't Bobby saying this. These are people close to him. They're like, I don't know that he wants to be on the stage at the same time as Bobby, because he's a Kennedy and Flynn is now a far right. And I go, well, General Flynn was raised a Catholic Democrat, and he switched parties. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. is saying things that only somebody that is a conservative would say. So, so I said, so don't worry. I won't, this is not Bobby Kennedy. This is someone around him. I said, don't worry. I won't make them be on the stage at the same time. And they were there's an area where the speakers were gathering, and General Flynn was in there, and Bobby was in a room over here. And I basically said, General Flynn, meet Bobby Kennedy. And I shut the door, so they got a chance to meet. And all of a sudden, like, the walls of division that would have kept them from meeting and connecting were done. And I did that with Dr. Rashid Buttar. I've done that with so many people. And now backstage at the event, which, by the way, Anthony, I'm inviting you. If you want to come backstage to one of our events, Florida or whatever, I'll get you a free backstage pass so you can see this happen. When you're backstage and you see Bobby Kennedy Jr. yucking it up with, talking it up with, General Flynn, and you see Mike Lindell and Eric Trump, and you see these are real people trying to save the country. And that's what I'm trying to do with the tour is three goals. Tear down the walls of division that keep everybody having suspicion about people who identify with a different political party. The second is I'm trying to make sure that the people who are in the fight are encouraged. When the attendees come to these events, you have no idea how desperate some of these speakers are behind the scenes, how much persecution they've gone through, the tears in their eyes that they have backstage before they get out there, how much persecution they've gone through. So I want the attendees to be encouraged by the audience. And the third is I want those the speakers to go encourage the audience. It's a symbiotic thing. And so all the speakers, I say, get down there and shake some hands. Let's go. And it's a lot of fun. So when we go to Miami, if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, we're going to Miami here on May 12th and 13th. I literally just got off the phone with General Flynn before hopping on with you. And he and I are going to be there at 5 a.m. greeting people. That's what we do. I mean, we're out there front lines greeting people. And it's not because, he's trying to be falsely humble. He really is an average dude who wants to save this country. And we're just trying to encourage and empower because we got one shot to save this nation.
100%. And honestly, it's talking about the putting them in a room together. And I'm a big fan of part of my Democrat past, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Fantastic messaging. Granted, he went very hard for a period of time ago on climate change, but I feel as though the last couple of years have changed a lot of people. But ultimately, what we've been missing in this country is the ability to bring people in a room, just like my brand is Awake Not Woke. One of our shirts is, in America, we can agree to disagree. We have forgotten how important it is to have conversation with people of different sides in the same room. You do it on social media, everything gets skewed. And it's just such a dangerous way of looking at conversation and progress in this country. So it's great that you are willing to bring up those kind of people and also break the paradigm of these ultra conservative movements and bring everybody under one roof.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. One thing that's kind of interesting is, I'll just say this, I disagree with my wife about a lot of things. What? We've been married 23 years, and we first got married. We talked, and I know how strong of a believer I am in certain principles. So we talked, and I said, hey, when we have kids, I do not want our kids going to school. I don't. I want to homeschool. However, if you want to put them in school, you can. But I'm just telling you right now, I disagree. In advance. This is before we had kids. And so, we had kids. We homeschooled them. Then my wife said, hey, I want to put them in school. And I said, oh, okay. And so I don't argue about it all the time, but I am not a big fan of it. But I don't bring it up at every discussion and argue about it and make our marriage hostile because of it. She also wishes I worked a little bit less. I get up at 3 a.m. every day, and I work till 6 p.m. every single day. I do it 6 days a week, and then Sunday's my day off. And a lot of people think that's crazy, but
you still do the 3-hour bath?
This is interesting. I used to do that, and what I would do is I'd get up and I would spend like 3 hours just reading, doing case studies, and that was kind of my thing because it's undivided. Very few people interrupt you in the bath, I found out. So it was a great place for me. However, now I'm spending time up here at the office now at 3, like reading patents, and I'm doing show prep, and so it's a little different use of those same 3 hours, but same kind of activity, but not in the bath anymore.
Real quick, first, I also want to give you some credit for one of the previous shows I'd watched you do. There was a host, great show, but also mentioned how he had done his research on the vaccine and was 100. He goes, I understand where you're coming from, but my research shows something else. And you're okay with people having a difference of opinion. The way that you just kept your composure, I gave you massive props for.
Yeah, and I've been self-employed for so long, and for anybody out there that wants to know more about me, maybe you don't, but if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, I have a conference that I do it every 2 months, and I've done it since 2005. And it's very interactive, Anthony, where people can ask questions. So I'm teaching marketing, branding, sales, accounting. There's always one person that goes, do you know where they have the non-question? It's a statement question.
Yeah.
And they say, I have a question, so why do you hate people? I love your marketing approach, but why? Not related to COVID at all. Just related to I don't agree with your marketing strategy. I just want to know, why do you hate people? And then, why are you dumb? Maybe it's that kind of question. I'm used to that pre-COVID. Or as a disc jockey, I used to DJ for thousands of people. And there's always one guy in the audience who's, boo, you're the worst. You suck. There's always that. And then as a speaker, I sold my companies. I did business comedy. So I was kind of a business comedian for thousands of people, and I would do an event at the Aria Hotel or something. There's always one person who would be in the audience going, you're the worst. So I'm used to dealing with the idea of attack or personal attacks. And so I try to stay above that if I can.
So we've got an event coming up called the Great American Summit after. I'm going to take you up on the offer to either be backstage. I might even come to Miami. I had an event cancel. So either that or Tulsa, which is obviously much closer, but I'm looking.
Miami, baby. I'll get you backstage pass. It'll change your life.
I might actually fly out to Miami. I'm thinking about that one. Besides that, we've got about a minute and a half left with you. I'm gonna ask this question. With Dominion being a big issue right now, election integrity is something that you spoke on a bunch. So last question, then I'll go do a bunch of post stuff where I'll add in everything about the ReAwaken tour and go through the website. But the Dominion lawsuit is obviously against Fox. They won that. Dominion is finding a way to get out of this hole. From an election integrity standpoint, how is it that they're coming out as the winner in this based on everything you do with election integrity?
I don't know any other way to explain this than if you look at the ownership of the media companies, we'll say there's essentially 6 organizations that own 90% plus of the media. And I hate to be vague. So if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, you can see my sourcing where I cite all those sources. But a lot of these media companies are either owned by the same big corporations or their advertisements all come in from Big Pharma. And Big Pharma is part of the World Economic Forum. So the CEO of Pfizer is a big part. Albert Bourla is a big part of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab's organization. So at the end of the day, you're watching Fox or you're watching CNN. It's kind of like watching WCW wrestling. So on WCW wrestling, I think we all know that the plot line is false. The wrestlers are told, go up there and go, oh yeah, I'm going to crush your skull, Undertaker. And then the other guy says, oh, I'm going to crush your skull. And then Macho Man says, oh yeah, well, and then backstage they're buddies. But on camera, it's, I'm going to crush your soul. And, oh, yeah, brother. There's a lot of that going on. And then there's like the Monday Night Raw, whatever they have, where there's like 18 people fighting with each other, everyone smashing each other with a chair. And although the actual chair smashing hurts, and although on mainstream media, some of the personal attacks they say about each other probably hurts, a lot of these people are friends behind the scenes. And that's one thing that's blown my mind I've discovered this year is a lot of people I thought were on our team are actually not. And I'm not going to mention the name of the person, but there's a big time personality in the media right now who everyone thinks is conservative. And it's not Tucker Carlson, who's actually a Democrat, who's perpetually unfaithful to their wife, but they're a top 10 personality on conservative TV right now. And most people think they're conservative, but when they cut to break, it's always like, this was brought to you by Pfizer. And this person's always skeptical about effective COVID treatments. But yet they are the most liberal Democrat I've ever met or ever heard from. And yet they're on stage and you think that they're conservative, and off stage, they're a philanderer. They're not faithful to their wife. But on stage, you think they're a conservative. And that kind of stuff is more common than you think.
I think I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to end. Yeah. So we're going to end. I know you got to go. Thank you so much for your time. I got your contact. We'll talk more. Go do your next interview. Cannot thank you enough. That's Clay Clark from ReAwakening America, your ReAwaken tour. I'll put all the links up there. Thank you so much, Clay. Have a great day.
TimeToFreeAmerica.com. Take care. Bye.
Ladies and gents, one more time. That was Clay Clark from ReAwaken America. I'm going to make sure we throw up everything in there so you have the links to all of his contacts, his show, his events, etc. That was a great 30 minutes. Hopefully I'll get more time with them another time. But this has been another episode of Blunt Force Discussion, a shortened one, but a good one. Take it easy, guys, and God bless. That was it, guys. It looks like we had more people watching, so I think it worked a little bit. I don't have any of the links, so you got to know to go to reawakentour.com. Once I put the links in, nobody sees anything. So that's per usual, but I want to make sure that's all tapped in there. You guys have a chance to see it. I know we had a pretty steady audience, about 35, 40 people the whole time between all the different channels, so that's great. Godspeed, God bless. And again, like I said, there was some really amazing positives at that event. Got to see a lot of great people. Hung out with Bobby, saw us there. Got to meet Ian Smith, who was one of the speakers. My man, Dr. Brian Artis, who I talked about earlier in the show, he was one of the speakers as well. Peter McCullough, who will be at the Great American Summit in a couple weeks in Dallas, Texas. And last but not least, who else was? Oh, well, I got to hang out with Jimmy Levy too. It was a great event. There was some kooky stuff, couple kooky speakers, couple kooky guests, but at the same time, I think everybody had the same mission. So Godspeed, guys. God bless. Have a fantastic evening.